Hello and welcome to another YouTube Live, and thanks for joining in. Comments are welcome, and today what I'm going to talk about is how to have what you want regardless of our world falling apart at the moment, because as we know, we cannot control people, places or things. The only thing we can control is ourselves. So I want to ask you a question. If I ask you to imagine our world isn't falling apart for a moment, just to envision what you want without limitation, can you? What if I ask you what you don't want, you don't like, or you hate? Because what I find is that even when I ask people what they do want, the first thing that comes to mind is a whole list that is reeled off about everything they don't want, they don't like, and they will not have before they get to what they want. Because quite often, and you might notice this yourself, when you are actually asked what you do want, it's hard to come up with. It's almost uncomfortable because we're so used to what we don't want happening all the time, right? So the reason for that is not your fault. It's that inner critic, and you'll know it by that chatter that goes on in your head, all those negative beliefs that we have that are then confirmed by the experiences that we have. And again, it is not your fault. It's just the way that we're wired. And it happens between the ages of 0 and 7, where our inner child is what feels those feelings and emotions and then programs them into the amygdala, which is at the back of your brain, and that is actually what causes all of these negative beliefs and destructive patterns then to perpetuate. And of course, we attract experiences that confirm all of that. So we actually think we're right. And, we know that we love to be right, don't we? So when in fact our inner critic and those negative thoughts, beliefs cause havoc in our lives and destructive patterns, then even when we're saying normal times compared to these times, and we're bogged down by responsibility, obligations, when we're deep in it, can we actually see what it is that we do want to create? The answer is we can't. Because we're actually not wired that way neurologically. The good news is we can change our wiring, but we cannot actually have what we want until we become the master of our mind. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Our desires and our beliefs are two connected things. If our desires are not matched by our beliefs, you will not have what you want. So to actually make a change, to have what you want, regardless of what is going on, you have to make a change. You must change. That takes getting out of your comfort zone because it's not comfortable, and challenging your ego. Your ego is so tied in with your conditioning. The good news is, again, that you can overcome your ego and actually succeed in becoming the master of your mind. And I'm going to talk about why it's important to do that, and also some tips to help you along the way, okay? Now, the thing about being hard to believe, okay, and not being wired this way, I will actually give you an example from my own experiences. And I have two that come to mind right now. One is when I was actually running my own project a humanitarian project that was focused on solutions, not problems. The other time was when I ran for the seat of Sydney federal election in 2016, and I only did that because there was a small party that I believed represented true democracy. So both times I was there putting up solutions in front of people. And because we are not wired this way, we're conditioned a different way, our DNA does not recognize solutions, even when they're right in front of us. So that is my own experience of us not being able to see forward when we're so bogged down, especially now with the world changing at such a rapid pace, okay? So why is it important to have what you want? Well, for one thing, you shift from being a victim of circumstance to the victor, and there are always victors in these situations. Number two, it will eliminate your anxiety and your fear, because one of the most fundamental aspects of anxiety, if you're in anxiety and fear and panic at the moment, is your cognitive thinking. So it's very important to be able to change that. And number three, why is it important? Is because you can eliminate destructive patterns and beliefs that, even though you keep affirming by different experiences, are not serving you. So I'm going to move on to tips now. The first tip I have for you is to work on your personal growth. And on that note, I can recommend a couple of videos to you. The first video is Steps to Eliminate Limiting Beliefs, which gives you one method of eliminating your limiting beliefs. And the second, which I've released because I have so many clients at the moment suffering from mindset, anxiety, relationship problems, a dim view of the world in the future. I've released a video that there's a link to below, which is on eliminating and silencing that inner critic. It actually goes through a powerful exercise in the video, and then tips you can practice straight away to boost your confidence and to change your mindset. So that's available for you free. And number two is to shift from what you don't want to what you do want. All of the tips I'm going to give you in this YouTube Live actually take a change of attention. You will notice that wherever you place your attention, that thing grows. So you can think about that and think about experiences that you've had that actually affirm that. Whatever we place our attention on actually grows. So number two is shift from what you don't want to what you do want. Number three, because what we do want isn't readily available to us, I want you to sit down and actually reflect on what you want to change and create in your life, and actually write it down. Make a list of it and refer to this often. It takes time and practice to change a lifetime of conditioning, okay? Number four, do what you love, what actually inspires you, what excites you, what brings you joy. And again, this takes a conscious effort. So make an effort to do what you love and what actually inspires you. Where am I? 5. I've got notes here so I don't miss out on anything. Focus on pleasure, fun, spontaneity, adventure. You might say, oh, that's easy for you to say at the moment. All it takes, again, is a shift in perception, because anything you're doing, even if you're in lockdown at home, you can actually focus on things that bring you pleasure. For instance, burning beautiful oils or burning candles, listening to music, whatever it is that brings you pleasure, dancing. Be spontaneous And the next tip I have for you, tip number 6, is to be creative, which is related. Now, you can be creative in whatever you do, whether it's starting your own business online, which is creative because you're becoming an entrepreneur, whether it's actually cooking a new meal. Even if you're following a recipe, you can still be creative. You can be creative just if you make the decision to be creative. So be creative. Create, okay? The next tip I have for you is to surround yourself by affirming influences. So that means affirming music, affirming people, affirming information, affirming programs that you watch. Anything that is affirming, inspiring, especially at the moment, will be good for you. And number 8, this is again a practice that you would make consciously. Number 8 is to actually catch your thoughts and turn them around. So you want to turn your thoughts to affirming thoughts of what you want, not what you don't want. The more you do that, the more you will have what you want. And basically, the added benefit is that all of these tips will reduce your anxiety and your cortisol levels. So it really pays to put these tips to practice. Now, of course, a coach comes in handy because they keep you on track. These kinds of tips are tips that take time and practice and conscious effort. You just have to want it enough. And here you can just think back to a time that you've really, really, really wanted something. You've made it happen, haven't you? The only question to ask yourself is, right now, have I had enough? And if you can actually scream at the top of your lungs, yes, I've had enough, then it's time to make a change and have what you want because you deserve it. Okay? Now, I have to tell you, the Areti Goddess online program is all about starting your own business, especially online, and it's reduced by 90% during this time to help you. So you can have a look at that as well. So before I go, I'm going to read you this goddess card that I pulled out, which is, again, so apt. These goddess cards are so intuitive, and it's all about, being in the depths of darkness as we perceive it and creating light. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you. And the goddess card I've pulled out today is Persephone. Can you see that? So here we go. Although Persephone is best known as Demeter's daughter, the maiden who was abducted by Hades, lord of the underworld, the Greek version of her myth reflects the usurpation of female mysteries by a patriarchal mythology. In this version, Persephone personifies the core, the maiden aspect of the goddess. Her myth exemplifies the cycles of nature, for when Persephone is underground, plants do not bloom, and when she returns to earth, spring ensues. Persephone is the goddess of the soul, for it is in the darkness of the underworld, analogous to the unconscious, not sure I pronounced that properly, the soul is formed. In the Orphic mysteries, Persephone granted wisdom to the initiate, for she is the goddess of a dark, uncomfortable wisdom, a goddess of dark and frightening power. Persephone represents the ability to rule over the aspects of ourselves that are terrifying in the extreme. So, my goddesses and friends, it's all about looking into the shadow self and all about loving that as much as you like and love the light. because it is only at that time that we are fully realized as human beings. So with that, I hope that empowers you. Go right ahead, watch those videos, and I wish you amazing success. Until next time, namaste.